What about something else from virtual design? Anybody, maybe? No? Is it just us?
They're all invited.
Okay. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Am I sharing the screen? I lost
Yes.
the rect.
We're
Yeah.
seeing the wiki page.
Perfect. Cool. Well, today's class is on the estimating portal. So I have a page in our wiki, in our pre-construction estimating page. There's a link to a new page here called estimating portal. And here I kind of have a little bit of general information regarding the estimating portal, a little bit of like some terminology that I want to kind of go over with the group here. So just before we kind of get going on this one, it's mostly just estimating and Gabe. But the estimating portal, it's something that has been in development for a couple years now. And it was my 2022 goal to kind of bring towards the finish line. So as part of my accountability group, I think we had Robert, Jake, Frank, Gabe, James, Vince, helping me out. We were meeting weekly and developed kind of our template and worked out a few kinks along the way. But the main horsepower behind what you're going to be seeing in the portal was Derek, one of our developers here with Walter Small. But jumping in, kind of the structure of the estimating portal, we have our projects that we have in our estimating list. And then within projects, there's bids that live within that. And a bid is kind of, think of it as the folder that will host your individual estimates. And then those estimates are made up of different systems. So here's kind of like a general hierarchy of kind of that structure. So beginning, like where do we begin to kind of work on a new estimate or create a new estimate? The starting point would be in our sales dashboard, looking at the projects window. So here, this is kind of what I had going on this week. But as you can see, there's 3 projects that I have. So this should kind of look very familiar to estimating so far. And then the way you go into one of these projects is by hitting the pencil. And once you go into your project, we have the different bids. Kind of this button here will open that up. So I kind of broke this page into different tabs. So once you are in bids, and I'll have you guys kind of follow me along right now, and we'll actually go into the portal. But I just want to show you guys this so we can talk about it and kind of just expose some of those windows ahead of time there. So here on my display right now, I already have 2 bids. If you're playing with it on your end, you'll probably won't have nothing there. In which case we would be adding a bid, and adding a bid would be, again, that place where we would have individual estimates within that. But once you hit add bid, this is like the general information that we have on our Excel estimating templates. General info that would be applied to the estimates in that bid. So the rate year, that will drive our labor rates. The rate location, same thing. It impacts our labor rates, field labor rates. The bid date. So yeah, when does that bid? And then the planned date. So this is a new field that we don't have in Excel. And the plan date is, we want to document the date of the plans that we're working with. And oftentimes that's found in the architectural drawings. In the cover sheet, there's probably a big area where that's displayed, or if you're looking through like your normal architectural sheets in the title block, the very latest date is kind of what we want to document there. The rates here get adjusted as we select the different rate years. If we have a bond, we can check that off. I'm not really sure if that's doing something today. I think down the road, maybe there's a bond estimate that'll come into play. And then our standard rates down here. So our tax rate, burden, we don't touch that. Outside engineering, all of these are what we know as our PMD&E rates. The units here is kind of how you want to see your green sheet summarized. So square footage is the default there. Lost time factor, 7.25. This looks a little bit different than what we have in Excel, but moving forward, I think we'll probably go down this route here. And then the margin. So the margin that we want to apply to our general estimate, and then the margin for our subcontractors. Buyout margin, I don't think this one's wired up to do anything today, but future state maybe have a separate margin for buyout packages. Okay. Vince, feel free to interject that anytime if you feel something.
Nope, you're doing great.
Thank you. So this kind of is when we create a bid. Once we go through this screen and create the bid, you'll see that there's going to be a new line item added to our list of bids. In which case, the next step would be to go and create a new estimate. And there's a couple different buttons on there, but to create an estimate is this dollar symbol without the solid circle in it. Hitting that will add a new bid for us, which will open up this display here. And in here is where we will create our individual estimate. At the estimate level, you could have different margin, but by default, it'll bring in whatever we had on our bid info there. The select a system name drop-down menu here is, think of that as our template that we're going to be working off of. So in Excel, we have different templates like our W75, tech wall, doors, and so forth. Today, there's only one template in here, and it's our W75. We want to work with this one until we kind of work all the wrinkles out of it, and then we'll develop future systems for our tech wall and so forth. The description here would be, how do you want to describe that estimate? So comparing it to Excel, this could be like the file name there. The check marks is like our command to finalize that prompt there. So we want to make sure we hit the check mark, that way that closes, and then it'll be created in here. Afterwards, you can just click in here and then you'll go into your estimate. And once you go into your estimate, it looks like this. So this is just a screenshot of the first thing that opens up as you go into an estimate, which comes up as the green sheet being the first thing that you see. And hopefully this looks very familiar to our Excel templates. We have our green sheet tab, opening schedule, materials, shop, field, caulking. die database, extrusion, glass, subcontractor, and a work in progress panels tab. Here. That's kind of the quick overview before we kind of run through a live example. Any questions or thoughts, feedback? Okay. So mainly for the estimating team, I think you guys would be able to create a new project, or maybe within a project you guys already have on your sales list. I'm going to use the estimating portal test that I've been playing around with, but you could add a new estimate to an existing bid you have, or maybe you want to create a new project for this exercise here. I'm going to give you guys a minute just to kind of do that there, whether it's creating a new project or going into an existing project. The pencil is kind of how we edit and modify things. The paperclip, if we want to attach some stuff to it. Today, we haven't played around with this a whole lot. And obviously, the little trash can is to delete stuff there. I'm going to hit the pencil so I can go into this project. Bids is where our bids are located. I'm going to hit that there. For me now, it's showing up 3 projects or 3 different bids here. I'm going to make a new one. If it's the first time you guys are doing this, you'll probably won't have anything listed here. I'm going to hit add bid. And then we get this add bid menu. So the rate year, we're going to say that this is something that the work goes in next year. We'll say that it's a Fremont project, Northern California project. Our bid date, give it a bid date. We'll push it out a week here. And then our plan date. And again, that's something that's from the architect's documents. So we're going to make a date here. The description of the bid. So this is what you're going to be seeing on your list of bids. So for example, on the 3 examples that I had, I already had a 50% DD budget, 100% DD budget. There was a 50% bid. I'm going to say that this project came back around, and I'm going to call this the 100% 100% CD rebid.
This, just kind of putting this out to everyone, we don't have an answer right now, but this would be a good spot for us to eventually have a standard to this, because anyone else that's going in here to look at these or find things, this is the naming it would be. So just let's not an answer right now, but think around like what would we want, a standard to look like that we could all live with. Maybe it has the class in there. I don't know. Like maybe that doesn't need it. Maybe it is just, which plans you're working off of. And that's enough, to help you or anyone else when they need to go look at old sets. So just bring that up.
Right. Yep. The estimator name and tax counting. We're keeping that all there just like that. The rates, they did get adjusted as I went from 2023 into 2024. And I'm going to keep all these different values as is there.
If you don't have 2025 rates, can you override it?
The only reason, so just taking a moment, this is a little rabbit holing, but The union for the shop is voting on Thursday. So I didn't want to put anything into the shop that, you know, we were just gonna have to change. We should know the next 3 years rates. Hopefully this
Oh.
week, assuming that they don't end up striking. But even if they do, we'll know within a month. At that point, I think all the rates are in there through 26 or 27. I've got.
I didn't follow through, but it looked like you could type it in, but I didn't go all the way and try to create a bit with revised numbers in there. But I'll take a look at that one, see if you could do it separately.
Yeah, field rates for Laverne, Fremont, and Las Vegas are all in the database through 27. I'm just waiting on the shop to finish their vote, and then we'll know the shop ones, and we'll have that updated through 27 as well.
Do the door rates ever get filled out? I see the line there. That's just 0, 0, 0. And I assume we just use the same shop rate. But do those need to be there? Are they there for a reason?
Can't think of it because
We
don't
have that
the
right
low
now
template.
in the Excel ones.
Yep.
Yeah, I think this is just a carryover. There's no reason for them to be different. Honestly, like we could, it's a good point. I mean, I think we could delete those. There's no reason for us to have the shop door be any different than just the shop.
Yeah, they're always the same in the green sheet, but there's both there.
Yeah, no, and I'm guessing here, Robert, I think that's a carryover from probably a long time ago where doors were always made in Fremont, but you weren't necessarily always estimating Fremont shop. You know,
Yeah.
you could have been estimating Laverne shop, so you could have had two different shop rates there. But you know, we've made it that Fremont's the standard for so long. It's a great point. I think it's something we just left around and can get rid of.
I'm gonna hit create. Are you guys almost ready for that, or do we need a minute here? Or any questions? Good? Okay.
Good. Good.
When we create bids, they do get arranged here kind of chronologically with the very latest at the bottom. So it's kind of good to kind of have that displayed that way. You just got to get used to your very latest. It's always this bottom row. So I'm going to go into this bid to create an estimate. And for that, I'm going to hit this icon here for estimates. But before I do that there, I just want to talk about again, the pencil is where you edit. So maybe if you want to rename this, that's kind of what you would use there. This button here, if you hover over them, you'll see kind of what that button will do. So here it's telling us that that's to view our combined estimates. So if we had a curtain wall estimate and a window wall estimate within this bid, this is like our account summary or master green sheet, super green. That's kind of what that button will do there. If you, for whatever reason, you want to duplicate this bid, maybe the job came back around, you wanted to reuse some of those previous estimates and modify those accordingly, that could be an option there. But today we're going to create a new estimate and we're going to hit this button right here that I'm hovering over. So this is that window where we can create a new estimate. And to create a new estimate, it's a little hidden, but it's this plus sign over here on the top right. That creates a new row for us. So we're creating a new estimate within our estimating portal test project, springing over that margin that we had in our info page. The system name, this is again kind of like our template. So today we only have this one here available, W75 1.2. And I'm gonna call this the W75 window wall. And I'm gonna hit the check mark over here on the left-hand side. That creates the estimate. So I think this is a good point to talk about how we would work with these estimates. So today, when we're working on a project, we kick it off to virtual design. They go off and do their modeling. We are doing our takeoff work. Virtual design creates an estimate file and saves it to their pre-con model folder. And then data gets pushed into that file. For us, moving forward here on the portal, in order for virtual design to push data into an estimate, the estimate has to be created. Therefore, estimating would have to create a list of those estimates that we would need data get pushed into, and then those estimates would be identified during the Gamma kickoff or future daily huddles as far as the number of estimates there. So for today's example, Gabe is going to be helping us push data into this estimate. So imagine that we had our Gamma kickoff, we identified a window wall estimate needed to be pushed. Gabe worked really hard and had a model ready in 20 minutes, and now he's pushing data into the estimate that we just created.
You want to
Good.
show the blank temp or the like open that up real quick just to show that it's blank.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was gonna give you the screen. Yeah, so today we just created an estimate. So this is how it looks. It's blank, opening schedule's blank. Our glass tab will be blank, and our extrusion tab is blank. So there's nothing in here.
Little quick question. Are we able to click on the estimate along the way, or is it going to create issues if multiple people are clicking on that estimate to view?
The one that
Yeah,
Well,
the one that you've got. Yep, the one that you've got going.
I don't, hopefully no one's using the one I'm not sure what it will do, to be
Okay,
honest.
just that. Yeah, just that. Don't want to lock it up.
No.
I think the only time we'd run into an issue, Frank, speculating here, was be if two people were in the same estimate, both making changes at the same time. You know, that there could be an issue if like two people were trying to like put data in to the same estimate at the literal same time, you know, and making updates, possibly like overwriting each other. You know, going in and viewing it, I don't think would be a problem. And I don't think it's something we'd run into very often where you had two people in the same one, you know, other than possibly this training.
Right.
We're in there.
We'll find out.
Gabe, have you pushed data, or can we?
No, I'm gonna share that.
Yeah, okay.
Let me know if you guys can see my screen.
Yes.
All right, perfect. So like Pedro mentioned, I created a model, 20 minutes, just a normal day for me creating models. And I'm done with the takeoff. Basically kind of, got with you guys and figured out how we're splitting this up. And it's at that point to where I'm going to push all the data. Like Pedro mentioned, like normally we'd push it to Excel, but we'd save it in the server somewhere and let you guys know. But with the portal, we actually have the ability to go through our takeoff program, and Zach created a button here called Sales Exports to the portal. So you basically define your release, right? Like say, for example, strip window or window wall, whatever it is. You can see there's how many lights and all that stuff. But once you're ready to go, you literally just click on this button. It says Sales Estimate to Portal. And what it's going to do, it's going to give you this window to basically pick which project you want to export your data to. And for this example, you would either put in the job name, the bid, the estimate, whatever it is that you know, you would go ahead and start typing. So for example, say it's a job, I can just type portal estimate. What was it called, Pedro? Portal estimate training? Estimating
Yeah.
portal. Yeah.
Estimating portal test.
Okay. Estimating portal test. So it looks like, you know, it's going to show you all the ones that have this name, portal estimate or portal ES. So you can kind of see all the projects that the bids were made. But I'm going to go to this project, the estimating portal test, and you can see all the different the bids, right? 50% CDs, 50 DDs. And then we want to click on the one you made, which was 5 minutes ago, the 100% CD rebid. It tells you what's the system and what's the description. So I want that one. That's where I want to export to. I can click on it. It's going to give me more information about it. And I'm going to hit this export button. And it's going to say, hey, are you sure? Are you sure you want to do this? It's going to override all your data that's there. And there's nothing on the portal now, but if there was, it's going to override it. You just hit this override button. It's going to put all your data over to the bid you just made. And then do you want me to go to that, Pedro, or do you want to look it on your side?
I can open it up on our end.
But yeah, that's basically the process. So same thing on virtual design side, still making models, still doing takeoffs. It's just you push the portal button, figure which project you want, and you hit the override button.
And then Gabe, just to confirm, I mean, if in an intermediate period here, we're kind of, we're testing this out, but still using Excel. After pushing that to the portal, they can click the sales export to Excel like they have previously and push them the Excel way that we've always been doing.
Yep, you can do both. You can do portal and then Excel. That way you can have the apples to apples comparison and just make sure that everything that went to the portal matches with your Excel file.
Because we can, I think we probably can check it easily because we're always looking at that when we're exporting it because something could be like popping up. But
Yeah.
what about the manual stuff we're filling up in the green sheets? Like all those weights and perimeters.
That's going to be in the portal now. And Pedro will kind of show that when he looks at the extrusion tab, but it's all going to come in. You don't have to push the update dies or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to do that anymore.
We still have to make sure it's filled up, right?
Correct, yeah. And we'll look at it right now. I'll give you Pedro the screen.
And you have to have an estimate loaded right before you can export.
Correct.
So estimating has to have you have to have a place to go drop it off.
Which kind of going like big takeaway from today. If we're breaking today into like takeaways as we do this, for the estimators, making sure that if you're working on a project and you're working with virtual design for sure, you need to make sure that you're creating these estimates that Pedro just showed, creating that place for virtual design to be able to export to. Like that's kind of if we're breaking this into baby steps, that's today's baby step. Like on jobs you're working on, let's get the job set up. Let's create the bid, create the estimates so we can get the data pushed so we can compare it and make sure that everything is looking good there.
Yes, thank you there. So yeah, we get kind of a heads up that data has been pushed into the estimate or estimates for your project. So as an estimator, what you would do is go back to your projects list and make your way back into that project that you were working on. So for us, we're working with this estimating portal test. I'm gonna hit the pencil to go into the bids menu. I'm going to go to the correct bid, which is the 100% CD rebid. I'm going to go to my list of estimates. And this is the estimate that Gabe just pushed data into it. I'm going to hit anywhere along this line. You can click and you'll go into the estimate. So we're in the estimate. And now when we go to the opening schedule, we have our opening schedule with data filled in that Gabe just pushed in here. So the opening schedule, it is something that we can add to it, similar button here, the plus sign, if down the road you want to add different things or count different things. It is something that can be manually entered. But a lot of the information should be coming in and should be automated with our unit name. Some data that we do get with the estimating portal, but it's not happening in Excel, is the embeds. And today the embeds are really coming into the material tab. Let me just double check that one.
I don't know if I had any on this one.
Okay, yeah, because we have these NANs. Embeds will make their way into the material tab. Sorry for kind of honing in on that one, but just wanted to give a little bit of some bonus points, something new compared to Excel. But yeah, you can see we have our square footage, units, lights, joints, all the information that you would see there. The different attributes are filled out. If you have any of these different attributes, you'll notice like right here, we have a corner, those are filled out. So most of this is already done for you here. The other place you would see some data would be in Glass. Glass, hopefully it looks very familiar to Excel, and it gets better. So Glass has some pretty cool new features. So at the very top here, we have our settings. So the overage that we will carry in our Glass budget, that's kind of what's there. The weight of each crate and the minimum area. So minimum area, that's very important. That's what is the vendor going to charge us for glass? Like what's the minimum area there? So if we had a piece of glass that was 7 square feet, we'll be paying 10 square feet minimum there. And then we have something that looks a little bit new, and this is the price breakpoints. So in Excel, we have our under 50 and over 50 bracket, but we all know that glass, oversized glass is very popular, and we have different brackets most of the time. So here we could edit how many of those different price breakpoints we have. So if I hit the edit button and change this from 2 to 3, it's going to give me 2 different options here. So it's telling me what's the point number 1 and what's point number 2. So point number 1 is kind of what you have over here as what's going to be your base glass. So in this case, if it's 50, we're going to put over here that we have 65 as, sorry, I'm going to go 50 here. So anything under 50 would be here, and then 50 to 65 would be here. And then anything more than 65 would be there. So there's going to be 3 different pricing options for this glass type there. You could just have 2, which is your over and under, or if you had more than 3. So it's like 50, 65, 75. So you have under 50, over 50, but less than 65, 65, but less than 75, and then anything over 75. So this is a pretty cool function that's new. I'm going to change it back to 2 just to kind of keep it similar to what we're used to seeing. I'm going to hit save changes. So if you don't hit save, it's not going to save anything that you've done here. So very important. And I forgot to put in 50 square feet here. So we'll be working with under 50 and over 50 square feet of glass. So we have a pricing summary table, and then we have our fabrications and other costs table. So this should look very similar to our Excel glass list. And then down below, we have our entire takeoff. So I'm keeping an eye out for the different types that are listed here. And here we have types 1 and 2. Therefore, I'm going to have 2 different types in our pricing and summary table. So I'm going to hit this once here, and I'm going to create type 1, the cost code, select the cost code, 474 for glass, the weight, and the description of it. So this could be 1-inch Vision IGUs, and then the price for it. So for this example, I'm just going to type this in here. And then we have the floppy disk. So the floppy disk is to save. Sometimes it's a floppy disk, sometimes it's a check mark, but that saves this current line item. I don't think you can add another line until you save this one. So you have to save one at a time, and I'm going to create another one for type 2. This one's also cost code 474. It weighs the same. We're going to say that this is 1-inch Vision with grid. And the cost for these, make something up here. I'm going to hit save. The fabrication and other cost table, that's adding premiums to any glass types that are up above. So for this example, I'm going to create a new row here for our type 2 glass. You don't have to put in the cost code because it'll identify which cost code that is based on the glass type that's above there. And the description here, we're going to say that these are setup costs for the silkscreen. And let's just say we had 3 different setups, and those were $1,500 each. I'm going to hit save. These $4,500 here make its way into the other costs. So it's adding a premium to any glass that's up there. So here in our glass list, we are just showing our glass. If there were windows, louvers, shadow boxes, those other materials are going into the material tab. That's glass kind of in a nutshell. I do kind of want to go through the entire estimate kind of high level, streamlined fashion. Hopefully we can make it here in the next 20 minutes. But any questions on the glass? Good. Cool. The next thing we'll take a look at is the extrusion information, because that is information that comes over from the model. So in the extrusion table or extrusion tab, we have a few tables. So the first one, our settings, so the overage for our metal, and then we have our solid and hollow pricing. So for this, we'll get those values from the wiki, which are they like 374 today or 274? 274, 284 next April. Sorry. So I'm going to hit the edit values button to be able to edit these. And I'm going to hit save changes. the finishes, so it'll list any finishes that are coming from our data. So here, everything's identified as paint. So we only have one type of finish. You could overwrite this, or you could say that this is a 3 code. Sorry.
Can you override the finishes that are listed below?
You could.
Okay.
Let's.
Oh.
um,
Oh, it doesn't give you another option. Yeah.
No, but you should be able
You
to.
You just
overwrite.
need to define it up above. So like, for example, like if you had 2 coat and 3 coat, you can push that, like, Pedro, call the one you got right. Well, leave it as paint. But if you could do add and then do another line for 3 coat, I think that then the drop downs will match.
Oh, okay.
It basically makes it's a good little like safety feature. Like, you can't define a finish down below that you haven't defined a price for.
Okay.
Because I think now when you do the drop down, yeah, then it lets you have your choices.
Okay. Yeah, because I set up mine like we order it. If it's mill or alidine, I'll
Yep.
change it.
Yep.
Okay.
So just create those at the top, create, however many finishes you have, and then you'll have that drop down to be able to switch around.
So we gave it
So-
our aluminum pricing. Go ahead, Bill.
Since you can export it from the portal. So if I have one that I've already done in the portal, will it export my data? Which is optimized metal and I can export all the glass and metal to Excel. So should I be able to export it to the portal? Or does it only come from the model?
You're saying, so like you did CAD drawings, you ran takeoff program on it, you've got metal, can you export it to here?
Yeah,
I think so. Gabe, do you want to chime in?
Yep, so if you just do the takeout program, you just hit the portal button and it'll come in here.
I don't know what would happen until the opening schedule, because it's not a unit name.
I think the opening
hopefully
schedule would just be
glass.
blank. I think it's going to export whatever you have. So if Bill didn't have an opening schedule, but it would export his metal for him.
Try it, see if it works.
Good question, Bill.
yeah, I just did a job. So I just wonder if I tested, it was a budget, but
Yeah, no, it's a good one to test out. Good one to check for sure.
So we have our aluminum pricing, we have our paint finishes. This table down here is for anything else that may be required that you might want to carry something special for your project, in which case you would add a row, describe that, and it's going to be those miscellaneous costs that we don't really use, but if it ever needs to happen, this is kind of where you itemize that, and then it'll show up in your miscellaneous costs in here.
Yeah, not something we have allotted today, but I mean, let's say you had something and we were having Western do a bunch of fabrication for us. And you needed to put those fabrication costs into here, you could list them there as an example.
Okay, so here comes something new. This is the extrusion table, but in our die database tab, things do look a little bit different. So because it's information coming from our server, our existing dies do get summarized with the description and our solids, hollows, weights, and perimeters. Everything in gray is kind of that information there. But we have a separate table off on the left-hand side for dies that are non-existing. So let's just make up a few dies or a few new parts in here. And Gabe, I don't know if we've tested it out, but if we did have a new part in the takeoff program, would that new part come over here, or would this be manually entered? I don't know if you know that.
I don't know if we tested that part.
We'll verify how that works, but the main takeaway here is that there's a list for existing dies, and then there's a list for new dies. Very similar to our die database, with one other little difference with our die cost. So I'm gonna make up a new part here and call it our W7511 X1, and it's a new seal track. And that's a solid, let's say it's 3.5 and 40 PI, and this one costs $7,500. And we also have a separate new die, and that one is our W75 12X1. And that's a horizontal. That's a hollow. Distance. That's 2.437, and that one's 4,500 bucks. When I hit save, it's gonna summarize any dies that are listed here over here on the top. So it's summarizing that we have 2 dies with a total cost of $12,000. Now, when we go to the extrusion tab, those values come along over here, and it's telling us that there's 2 new dies with $12,000 worth of die costs there.
Is it seriously $12,000 for die? Like $6,000 to make one die?
I'm
Yes.
probably a couple grand stronger, but not a whole lot.
That's a low end, Yana. That's low
Yeah.
end.
No, I didn't know. All right.
Don't run with the numbers that I'm typing in this video. Okay, so that was the die database. Material. We got about 15 minutes, a little bit under 15 minutes. So we do have our calculator that we had in Excel. We kind of have that up here. And you can edit these values here based on your project. So we're going to say that we have 5 units per pallet, and we're going to have 3 pallets per truck, and that we're setting 15 per day. I thought this was a default. We'll double check this one. But this should be kind of that there. And now that should drive like our pallets and trucking. Everything comes up kind of collapsed, and you would open these as needed. So in our model, we did have operable vents. And here it's telling us that there was one window type, window 1, with a total area of 167 square feet, giving us some information like the total perimeter and how many of those there were. By default, it's bringing in the square footage, but this is something that could be overwritten. So if maybe you received your quote per window, you can type a 10 here, or if you're waiting for your quote and you want to put a plug number based on the square footage, you could use that there. And then type in a cost for that. So for this example, we're going to keep the 167 there, and we're going to put a cost of $110 a square foot. And save that there. So you would make your way down the estimate. The main thing here is saving before you go to another tab. Pallets, it is coming off our calculator that we have up here. So if we were to change these to maybe 4 pallets on a unit, we're going to keep an eye on this 56, see if that changes, and it does. So that updates that there. For the sake of time, I don't know if anyone has some questions, or Robert, Frank, Vince, anyone who's kind of been familiar with this one a little bit.
And I just want to point out, we are going to do more trainings on this. I mean, again, baby steps here. I mean, Pedro's gone over a lot, and this is fantastic. We'll do more. In big takeaway here, is just getting these set up so we can start getting data exported, and we'll get some more of these on the books, because there's a lot here that we just went over.
A really quick question. In terms of embeds, does it recognize the embeds from the model?
Yes, yep, there's takeoff components in the embeds. And once you define which wall it's on, like if it's on window wall, curtain wall 1, or whatever it is, it'll basically count those and put them in the material schedule.
Yeah, we have like 3 different line items for them. So I'm assuming the model recognizes whether it's a standard embed, corner embed, or a tube embed.
So what goes on the opening schedule? As far as embeds?
It's coming up as zeros, but if it is from the model, the embed count does go directly to the material tab. It just
Yeah.
can't be associated to the unit. It had to be like an overall wall.
Okay. Yeah, because
That-
some
We have
units
it
could
hooked
have,
up that those embed counts then would go to the field so that we.
I think once it makes its way to the material tab, it should also make its way over to the field. Like right now, it's showing up as zeros, but let's say we do have embeds. And if it's data from the model, you can't overwrite this one. If it's yellow,
Oh.
you can't overwrite it.
You'd have to put it as a new line down
A
below.
new line item, but then if you do type it in, then it won't trickle over to the field. You have to manually key that in.
Bless you. Bless you.
yeah, for my takeoffs, I assign the number of embeds per the unit type. So, I mean, you could have 1 to 4, depending on what unit you have.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah, so we'll definitely have more trainings, more specifically on how to use it, more in depth. But yeah, those, if you can take some of those things away, is in the material tab, anything that's an infill to the unit, other than glass, those materials do show up in the material tab. So our louvers, because I think we also put a louver in the model, that comes into the material tab, into the louvers. Brake shapes. Today, it's coming into our brake shapes section here. So we had a pop-out panel and a back pan, and it's bringing in the square footage of those different items. The panels tab today is currently under construction. I know our Excel tab is more further along, but we'll kind of catch that up here on the portal side.
Hey, Pedro, I sent you a side note on that shop labor. I noticed while you were building it that the shop attributes hadn't moved. Well, the attributes were there, but the unit numbers weren't there yet until you started entering data into the glass. I know we were seeing that before. Like there, it's there, but when we first looked at it, there were no quantities there, so it was showing up as NA. Just a side note, if you see that when you first create it, and you get data, it showed up once you started entering the glass.
Yes, that does happen, because I
Yeah.
noticed when we first opened it up and started talking about embeds showed up as NAs, but now right now it's coming up kind of like with zeros. I know that there is some refresh
Mm-hmm.
Thing that needs to kind of fixes itself once you edit one field.
The data, right? Yeah.
I know Derek's been trying to fix those along the way, but we'll keep an eye on that one and see if that keeps happening. I'm gonna skip over material, like finishing up the material tab, shop labor and field labor, because those look very similar to our Excel. The next one that I kind of want to talk a little bit about is the caulking tab, because that one does look a little different. So very similar to the glass table, we have our pricing and summary, which is where you would identify the different caulk joints that you want to itemize. Or if you have like a lump sum quote from Valley, for example, you could put that into the subcontractor tab. But if you were taking it off by caulk joint size, you could use the caulking tab and identify those different joints. So I'm gonna give you guys two different examples here, hopefully in under 2 minutes. Let's say we have our exterior perimeter, and maybe this is something that we have taken off in OST or Bluebeam. And, oh, sorry, type 1 would be our exterior perimeter. And that costs $18 a foot. I'm gonna save that one. And then type 2 is for our punched windows perimeter. So we have two different functions in our caulking list table down here. And caulking perimeter, that one, we're gonna say it's awesome. We're gonna say that one's a little bit less, $17. So I'm gonna have a caulking list, and for the caulking list, we're gonna say that type 1 is my curtain wall. And if this was that takeoff that we had from OST, if you put a 1 here, this is just gonna multiply across. Maybe your OST takeoff was for 20,000 lineal feet. Hit save there. And for the other example is a punched window. So a punched window, you could say you have 30 windows, and the width of the window was 5 feet by 7 feet. It's gonna do the math here, and it's gonna take, good catch, Frank. Type 2 was for the punched windows. So for our total perimeter here, it's gonna give us the width of the sill and the head, and then the 2 jambs. And it's gonna multiply that by the number of windows, or the quantity column here. So that gives you the total perimeter for the punched windows, and if I hit save, it should bring the cost up there.
What
So
if you have a joint inside and outside?
I mean, you could say, you could itemize those into interior and have a separate list for exterior, or you could just say that that happens twice over here. But if the interior and exterior are different joints, you can itemize those as needed there.
They also come up in the material schedule too, how it's broken down by per unit or system joints.
Yes, and the caulk joints on, so the caulking that we were just going over was like all our exterior subfield use caulking. But caulking in the material tab is our shop use structural sealant. There, we have about a minute left, but the green sheet, it's working. Before this was broken, an example I was running with, so it's a good sign that this is showing up here. We didn't finalize our estimate, but based on what we just did today, we didn't even go through the shop and field just based on the default values. This is kind of what we're coming up. This is, hopefully it looks very familiar. We'll touch on it again in the next one, but we do all the work just to get this little number right here. So, and that's 12 o'clock.
Great job, Pedro.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
Pedro.
Thank you, Ben.
We'll see you guys next time.
Next
Yeah.
week, Pedro?
Next week is panels. But I'm okay pushing panels out and continuing with the estimating, and talk it over.
Yeah, we can go either way.
Okay.
I have a lot of questions. I was like really containing myself. Stay on
What are you
mute.
guys more excited for, panels or estimating portal?
Both. No, I mean estimating portal, I think.
Estimating portal?
Pedro, let's switch it up. If you're okay, let's go estimating portal next week and we'll push the panels out.
Alright.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Cool.
Thanks.
All right, guys. Thank you. Have a good one.
Everyone.
Yeah.